Good afternoon.
Hello.
How was your weekend?
It was good. Lots of studying. So maybe by some measures, not great, but I'm a nerd, so I enjoyed it. How was yours?
Excellent. It was great. Yeah, I was had a bachelor party in Charleston, so it was just a wonderful weekend hanging around Charleston, eating and drinking as much as possible, good food and beer. It was awesome.
They have some great
Probably
food down there.
spectacular. Yeah, I really enjoyed everything. Got
What
some
was your
great.
favorite thing you ate?
We went to Poogan's on the last day. It's a barbecue joint and just spectacular barbecue. So really, really good.
Very jealous. That
Yeah.
sounds delicious.
We did do a few oysters here and there too. The oysters are really good. Just everything was awesome.
Yeah, that's
So,
definitely a good food city for sure.
yeah, we'll say I'm feeling my age a little bit as I'm trying to catch back up a little bit this week here, get back into everything. So,
We're going to flip the script. I'm going to take the mic, introduce my man, the scale man is what I always call you. I actually have never called you that before, but I thought it was particularly appropriate for this video today. I feel like scale is one of those buzzy marketing words that's kind of on the same line as funnel, or at least what funnel was a few years ago, where it was just you hear it everywhere. And it's what everyone's favorite focus right now is scaling. So we hear it all the time from our clients, from people asking questions. So we thought we would take some time today to go over what is scaling and maybe why you're not scaling, why it's not working for you if you're attempting to try it with Google Ads. So since Andy is the scale man, I'm going to throw some questions his way and have him explain a little bit about what is scaling and how can we really hone in and get our ads to be the most scalable as possible. So let's just start off by asking, what do you mean by scaling? What is that? What is that?
I like that. Yeah, it is very buzzy. So, so I guess in the simplest way, we just mean like once we've got good results, how do we get more of those? So if we always talk about ROAS as a really standard way to measure our ad performance. That's revenue divided by the ad spend. So essentially, if I give you $1, if we have a ROAS of 3, if I give you $1, am I getting $3 in revenue back from those ads? And when we talk about scale, it's really a matter of how many of those dollars can we convert at that same level. So, okay, if I can, put in $1 and get $3 back in return, well, can I put in $100 and get $300 back in return, or $1,000 and get $3,000 back in return? And it seems like there's always a bit of a trade-off between those two factors. So oftentimes when you really try to scale and try to put more money out there, that's when you see kind of a diminishing results, diminishing returns, and start to see that, hey, if we're spending a lot more money, we may not be really turning them around at quite that same multiple. So I guess kind of the art of scaling is how can we really push our ads and get some more results, but do so profitably and make sure that we're kind of growing our ad spend while maintaining a reasonable multiple return on a ROAS basis.
I love that, the art of scaling. I think that's something that PPC Pitbulls really practices as an art. I think a lot of people are concerned when they get to that next step in scaling, and you're right, they're not hitting the same multiple in return. They're still making more money than they were at the last point. And sometimes you have to adjust your focus. Are you focusing too much on that multiple as opposed to the actual revenue that you're bringing in? It's super interesting.
That's definitely an important factor. And as we get started and as we start to push things, a lot of times, early on, you're getting the lowest hanging fruit. And that might be, branded searches. If people are coming in and they're searching for your company name, those people probably are already looking for you. They're the most likely to buy. So if we run an ad on your branded search terms, chances are you're going to have a really high multiple. And then as we start to scale, that ROAS drops a little bit as, higher and higher percentage of your searches start to come from either non-brand search terms or people who've never heard of your site before or heard of your brand before. And I think that's something to remember is oftentimes people, start running their ads and see these amazing results right away, 5, 6, 10x result, returns, because we do want to start small and test things out and experiment. And every once in a while, you really hit it out of the park and get one of these, kind of amazing returning strategies. And it is important just to remember that as you scale, It might be that, hey, we're not going to be able to maintain that 10x return, but you don't really need to maintain the 10x return if you're able to really build it up and spend. If you can get a 10x return, but you're only able to convert $10 of ad spend daily, that's not really helping you that much. So maybe we can accept that 3 to 5x return if we're able to convert $1,000 in ad spend at that lower multiple. And that's where it really goes to a point of sometimes we look at cash flow rather than just ROAS. So rather than just look at the multiple of ad spend divided by, or revenue divided by ad spend, sometimes you have to look at, well, what's that difference? What's the revenue you're making less the ad spend you put in to get it. So even as that multiple drops a little bit, sometimes you're still really, really pushing up that cash flow.
That's a great point. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about how PPC Pitbulls likes to scale. What is our art of scaling?
Definitely. So in Google Ads, what's nice is they give us a kind of, first of all, automated bidding strategies, which we like to use, which basically says, hey, we're going to set a budget. And based on what the strategy is, we're going to let Google go ahead and really execute that strategy. We say, hey, we're not going to limit you exactly on what you can spend in a budget term, but we want you to go ahead and out there and meet our goals. So we're not going to say you can only pay X per click or only target these specific people. We want Google's machine learning and automation to go out there and target the best people and put in the best bids to ultimately maximize our strategy. So the first step is using those automated bidding strategies. Then the next step on whether it's maximizing the number of conversions or better yet, maximizing the conversion value. Those are really the factors that Google gives you. On either side, you can start with just purely maximizing it. And then eventually you can set a target and say, hey, this is the target ROAS, conversion value divided by ad spend that I want to get back. So what we do is we'll start out by just saying, hey, maximize my conversion value. So go out there and spend my $10 a day budget, $100 a day budget, whatever it is, whatever I can afford to spend as I'm starting out, and get me the best conversion value that you possibly can back. But essentially get me the most revenue possible back, and just really maximize it. And that's where we start out, because when we're first starting out, the models don't have enough real data to learn yet. They haven't gotten through their learning phase, and we don't know exactly what a reasonable ROAS goal is going to be for this particular business, for this particular website. So we wait until we have enough data coming back. And typically we look for anywhere on the scale of like 30 to 50 purchases per a given month. So if a month has gone by and you've gotten 30 to 50 purchases, or Google speak conversion events, that's when we might feel comfortable switching over to a target-based strategy and saying, okay, now rather than just I'm going to give you the budget and you go out and get me as much revenue as possible, I'll let you know that, hey, here's a budget that you can spend up to that amount, but I only want you to spend it if you can get me this particular ROAS multiple. So I might tell you that my budget is $100 a day, but if you're only able to profitably spend $50 a day, that's where I want you to stop. And the way that we kind of denote profitability is that target ROAS. So it might be a 3x multiple, it might be a 4x multiple, and that's the target that we set for Google to go.
So one thing I think that we don't talk a whole lot about is setting up your systems and making sure that your systems are functional. That's such an important foundational piece to be able to scale. So I thought maybe you could touch on, what do you do when you do set up your systems and maybe they're not working like you thought they should?
Definitely, yeah. So I think there's kind of two ways to look at that. I think of it both inside Google Ads. So as we're going, we always need to make sure that we're using the right targeting strategies, using the right campaign types, targeting the right audiences. And all these things are things that we experiment over. We try different things and try to double down on what's working. And oftentimes we find something that's successful. And as we start to push it a little bit and increase spend there, we find that we're not really able to push it beyond a certain point. So that's where we may, test out some different creative, test out different pictures, images that can go with the ads, test out different, maybe headlines or descriptions. test out different product mixes, even maybe if we're, going to say that let's only serve certain product types. So on the strategic side of the house, within Google Ads, there's a number of things we can try, but basically it's just experimenting across all those different factors and seeing what we can do differently. The other piece of this, and maybe kind of the more exciting side of it, is what we can do outside of Google Ads. So as we start to scale, if we start to say, hey, this is really our breaking point here, we're not really pushing any further, that's where we start to look at the website and look at really the performance of the site and the business as a whole, and say, okay, how can we improve the conversion rate, or how can we improve the average order value, and start to see as somebody comes through, because those are factors that ultimately are going to go into the amount of revenue that we can get per our ad spend. Let's start to look at some of those different factors, and there's a million different strategies. Maybe we'll save that for another video, but of how we can really improve the conversion rate, the rate or the percentage of time that when a customer hits your page, they ultimately make a purchase, or to really improve the average order value. So when they do make a purchase, how many dollars in revenue are you getting back for that? And then the last piece there that I would also start to look at is customer lifetime value, and look at, once a new customer has come in and made a purchase, how many more times are they going to purchase in the future? And as we nurture them and nurture that relationship, do we get more purchases over the lifetime of a customer? And those are important because it may be that starts to lower the multiple, that, hey, we're able to accept a little bit lower ROAS multiple on the first purchase they make, because we know over the long term, people typically make more multiple purchases, or people, will come back after X amount of time and make another purchase. And a lot of the routes that we go to do all of that really comes from nurturing the customer relationship. A lot of times that means through email to whether it be different email flows, different, things that just finding new touch points to make sure that we are, really continuing to broaden the relationship with existing customers, as opposed to just focusing on that, kind of purchase-based ROAS or first purchase-based ROAS for the initial purchase coming out of the ad.
See, this is why I call you the scale man, or at least why I should start calling you the scale man. I hope that gave everybody a really great, clear roadmap, at least to start diagnosing and going through and seeing where your systems can tighten up and what can be better to help you position your business to better scale. I think now is some of our favorite time in the video to talk about maybe some good news of the week. Do you have anything, Andy?
Yeah, so I had mentioned earlier, we had this trip down to Charleston this weekend. And while I was there, I actually got to stop by the shop of one of our longstanding, one of our favorite clients, Wash Mama, that's spelled with a U. But yeah, so we were able to get down there, and really we do a lot of business virtually. I guess it makes sense. We're, kind of e-commerce focused business. So it's one of the first times really getting to, meet with some clients in person coming out of the pandemic. So yeah, it really felt great. Felt very normal to be able to see people in person again. So really enjoyed that, and enjoyed that experience of, we do so much working with these products and selling these products online every day. So it's so cool to kind of get in and see the full store all set up and touch and feel and really get to experience it.
I think for my good news, so I actually grew up in Arizona, and that's where my parents are. I live in North Carolina right now and haven't been living in Arizona for a long time, but I see my parents maybe 1 or 2 times a year. So the exciting news is that my parents are going to come visit me in the mountains in a couple months. So I'm very excited to welcome them home into my home and get to treat them as my guest and cook for them and have them meet my dog and be annoyed by all the hair that's everywhere.
That's awesome. Have they seen your current place out there yet?
They haven't. They actually haven't been here for a few years. And so I'm really, really excited to get to bring them around. I think we might go to the Biltmore again, and I might take my dad to a tourist game so he can get a good hot dog and a fried Oreo and watch some baseball, which is what he loves.
Nice.
So I think it'll be really fun.
What was the team name?
The Tourists.
The Tourists. Okay.
Well, I really enjoyed this. Thank you for letting us into the Scale Man brain and getting to look inside and get us some inside scoops here. I hope it's really helpful for everyone. And I'm really excited to catch you up on the next topic next week when we chat, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsey.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.